and welcome to My Career in Data, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders and experts how they have built their careers. I'm your host, Shannon Kemp, and today we're talking to Shannon Fuller from Ahold Delhaize USA.
With a robust catalog of courses offered on demand and industry-leading live online sessions throughout the year, the DATAVERSITY Training Center is your launchpad for career success. Browse the complete catalog at training.dataversity.net and use code DVTalks for 20% off your purchase.
Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at DATAVERSITY. And this is My Career in Data, a DATAVERSITY Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there and to talk with people who help make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Today, we are joined by Shannon Fuller, lead data governance at Ahold Delhaize USA. And normally, this is where a podcast host would read a short bio of the guest. But in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Shannon, hello and welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful that you're here. And again, of course, and I'm excited that we share this fabulous name together. So we already have something in common. Tell me, Shannon, you are the lead data governance at Ahold Delhaize USA. So tell me, for those who may not know, what type of business is Ahold Delhaize USA?
Yeah, Ahold Delhaize is a global grocery retailer, and Ahold Delhaize USA is the management company for 5 great brands up and down the East Coast: Food Lion, Giant Food, Giant, Stop and Shop, and Hannaford Food grocery retail.
Nice. Very, very nice. So as the lead data governance, what do you do?
So a lot of my responsibilities for the U.S., I own our master data management program, obviously data governance, data stewardship, work a lot with our tech teams, also have responsibility for our data privacy operations. So many of the people listening to this will be very familiar with the consumer data privacy laws that have been passing. So my group is responsible for that. And we're also responsible for our data quality program. So if it has to do with data in some way or another, our group touches it.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it keeps it interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Any given day, I can be in a room full of lawyers talking data sharing contracts, or in the weeds trying to figure out why a bag of sugar weighs 200 pounds, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you never know.
I love that data quality example. So Shannon, so tell me, so how big's your team?
So I have a total of 12 people on my team. And then we are a federated organization. So we sit at the center and we have lead data stewards, and even our domain owners sit in the business. So we coordinate and facilitate, and then we have our stewards and domain owners sit in the actual business units, and they're the ones that are responsible for maintaining and managing our data.
Oh, very interesting. So how do you specifically work with data in your job on a day-to-day basis?
So on a day-to-day basis, we own our data catalog. So we work with the stewards directly, maintaining and managing our data catalog, data lineage. I have a group of data quality analysts on my team that do some of the root cause corrective actions, deep dive. Anytime we're developing new processes that we're rolling out to the business, those start with my team. We work a lot with our product management group around master data management. So any processes or updates we're making to our MDM tools also go through my team. So it is very varied. any of the activity we're doing around data privacy with DSARs, the data subject access rights. My team processes all of those requests. So on any given day, we are a little bit of everywhere. We are also heavily engaged now around AI governance and analytics governance. So we
Mm-hmm.
work with our data science teams and our advanced analytics teams to make sure we have the right controls in place, make sure we understand roles and responsibilities, and we have processes to assess risk of certain activities. So, like I said, anything kind of around data, whether it's
Yeah.
policy, standards, things of that nature, also come through my group.
Oh, I love it. Are you finding there's it sounds like what you're doing with in terms of AI governance is very similar just to the fundamentals of data governance. Are you finding there's a huge difference between AI governance, analytics governance, and data governance?
I will say the difference that I find the most is we don't have clear definitions of what is AI yet.
Yeah.
Right. So as we're evaluating these capabilities, one of the things we run into, you'll see with existing tools that we already have in the environment, is they are rolling out new capabilities. Some companies are calling things AI. Some of them are, some of them are not. Right.
Right.
So we have to have a way to evaluate those things. And especially with our AI policies, we make it clear that we have to have transparency and explainability of any models that are in our environment.
Mm,
It becomes difficult at times when you're working with third parties and external companies because they also need to protect their IP in some of these models.
right.
So finding those lines, whereas in data governance, like with MDM tools and things like that, they've been around long enough. We've solved those problems already. But with AI, we definitely have not. And with the scope of AI capabilities, that makes it even more challenging because now I can have an AI model that's going out and just scraping random data from anywhere in my environment if that's how you configured it. So how do you
Right.
put controls around that, right? So
Mm,
it definitely introduces um, some new problems that we
mm,
haven't had to address as part of governance, but it keeps it interesting, and the new capabilities outweigh the problems that we're going to have managing it.
sure. How do you, just a final question before I dive into how you got into where you are today? How do you keep up to date on the policies that are constantly changing around that you need to govern? You know, you mentioned a lot of that compliance policies. There's just so many data privacy policies, you know, rolling out, you know, now city, state, nationally, maybe, and internationally, certainly.
Mhm. You cannot do it alone. So no one group can. We partner very heavily with our privacy group that sits in our legal organization.
Mm-hmm,
We partner with information security and our
mm-hmm,
architecture teams. So as technology is changing, they keep us up to date on what impacts is that going to have with our environment. One thing we had to deal with about a year ago as these new cloud technologies are changing and evolving, it would have, in that Microsoft Azure, it would have changed the way we implemented our entire security model.
mm,
Right? So we had to go in and really assess what are these new capabilities and what impact is that now going to have on our entire environment and the way we've architected our security. And is that worth, or how are we going to manage those changes to reduce any risk or impact to existing models and operations?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
All right. Well, let's talk about how you got into being a lead data governance. So tell me, Shannon, when you were, say, 6 years old, what was the dream? Did you dream I'm going to grow up and be a lead data governance, or what was the dream at 6?
Not even close. When I was 6 years old, I thought I was going to be a pilot,
Yeah.
but it turns out I'm colorblind. So becoming a pilot kind of gets thrown out of the window because I'm colorblind. Uh, but then as I started growing up, I was really interested in architecture. But as I
Yeah.
started investigating careers and things like that, I started looking into engineering. I thought I was going to be an architectural engineer. But then I found electrical engineering, and that kind of captivated my imagination. So I became an electrical engineer and started out my career doing plant floor control systems for Anheuser-Busch. So I
Oh,
was programming brew house control systems and packaging lines and things of that nature. And just over time, data became more and more important as part of these processes and being
mm,
able to analyze data. So uh, in my function of being an engineer and designing these control systems, I had to start designing databases to be able to capture all of the information coming off of the lines. And
yeah.
that it started snowballing from there, getting more and more into data. Then SAP comes along, and now we're implementing SAP. So we have these large data migrations. I was the plant floor guy, so I knew all of our control systems. So I got involved with doing the large SAP implementations, and it's been all data ever since.
Wow. That's amazing. So what attracted you to architecture, first of all?
I think with architecture, it was the design and the imagination and creativity of
Hmm.
architecture that really drew me to that. I also grew up, my family owns a construction company. So
Okay.
I come from a family of brick masons, and that's where I worked all summer, every summer since
Yeah.
I was 13 years old. So that kind of got me into building trades, and I started learning a lot there. But I think it was the you can do anything if you can think of it, if you can dream of it. So that's really what drew me to that. And then as I started growing and learning different things about engineering field in general, one of the things that drew me to electrical engineering is it is everywhere. It's ubiquitous, right? You can do
Yeah.
anything just about. So I thought, okay, well, I can go electrical engineering, but I can still do construction, right? I can still program buildings and do automation. And at that time, so this was the early 90s, where system automation was really starting to boom, right? And robotics was coming about and in a major way in manufacturing. So that really drew me to electrical engineering for the same reasons, because it was so wide open and you can do so many different things. It made it very appealing for me.
I don't know that I've ever sat down and thought about what electrical engineering is. So it's fascinating for you to kind of map it out and what that involves. Um, uh, a lot more than a lot more than wires.
Yeah, yeah, and many people think that, right? You're
Yeah.
either designing circuit boards or power plants, and that's pretty much it. But no,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
not the case. You see all these high-rise buildings and
Yeah.
the elevator automation and the temperature control systems. All of that is electrical engineering.
Fascinating. So, okay, so you're getting into data. So just the two companies that you've worked for, or what were some of the major transitions in your career?
No, so when I left Anheuser-Busch, I went to another company called Unilin. They manufactured wood flooring. And they were a Belgian company, but they were building a plant here in North Carolina, their first operations here. So I joined with them to build that plant here in North Carolina. Then, as I left there, I got into healthcare. Uh, and when I left there, I went to another manufacturing company called Sabic Innovative Plastics.
Mhm.
And they make all the plastic that is in everything that you own. That is where I really made the transition from more of a IT programmer role into strictly data. So I was doing a lot of data work, and that's where my data governance transition really started.
Mhm.
Is when I was with Sabic, and it came about through and we were implementing SAP. So doing those large migrations, data transformations, I was in charge of the team that was doing the data work for materials management, APO planning, and finance. So all of that data transformation, developing new standards, working through data retention issues, even though we weren't calling it data retention at the time. And that really began my work around data policies as well. Where are we storing data? Are we migrating it all? Are we storing some offsite? Are we going to have hot backups? And do we keep 3 years or 5 years? Uh, so a lot of those kind of discussions on how are we truly going to manage this data started in that role. And then from there, I've been all data governance ever since. When I left Sabic, I went to a large hospital system here in North Carolina, built the data governance program there. And then after leaving there, came with Ahold Delhaize again to build the data governance program here.
Oh, I love that. So you've worked across a lot of different industries.
Yeah, I have. I've been fortunate in that from consumer goods to manufacturing to healthcare and now retail. So,
Mm.
and I like to tell people that again, that's one of the things that I love about what I do is data is data. There are nuances with every industry, but I can go anywhere because everywhere has data. Uh, and the same principles that I learned even early on as a programmer still apply. I used to tell people you don't you don't have to focus on what the syntax of a programming language is. Learn how to program. You can always learn what buttons to push and where the colon in the period goes. That's the easy part. The same thing applies with data. Learn how data works, learn how people engage with data, how people use data. It doesn't matter what the data is. If you understand how data works, you can learn the nuances of the industry that you're in. But the value you're bringing to the table is you know how to make data available, you know how to protect it, you know how people are going to engage with it so you can guide them. And even answering the question of what data they need, a lot of people don't know that going in. Business users, they have an idea, but they don't really know because they
Yeah.
don't understand how the underlying data is structured. And
Mhm.
those are the things, if you know how those things work, you can immediately bring value to any organization you're in.
Visit dataversity.net and expand your knowledge with thousands of articles and blogs written by industry experts, plus free live and on-demand webinars covering the complete data management spectrum. While you're there, subscribe to the weekly newsletter so you'll never miss a beat.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I love that through your career and everything that you've done, it's so transferable, and that's a part that
Mhm.
excites you. That we get so many companies too who come to us thinking that their data problems are so unique, and and they're, yeah, it's like, well, we've definitely heard this before. It's common, and help nurture and engage some community so that they can find out that there's a common problem there, that they aren't alone, and they can collaborate with a lot of peers to
And,
solve it.
and one of the things in going to multiple companies and multiple industries I've seen, to your point, the problems are never that unique. It's more based on the culture of the organization
Mm,
and how mature is the organization in
mm,
managing data. That
mm,
is where some of the uniqueness comes in.
yeah.
So when I've gone into companies that don't have very mature data management practices, then yes, it feels very daunting when you're trying to approach these problems because you have to spend a lot of time on that foundational work before they can get to the meat of the problem. And I think at times that makes people feel like their situation is unique because they're having to start off instead of starting at zero, they're starting at -1 because
Well,
nobody's ever tried to approach these problems before.
yeah.
But again, even in that, they are not alone. There are many companies that data was never the priority. It was all about operations. It was about getting widgets out the door, right? And we'll figure out what happened and how it happened. We'll figure that out later. Uh, Now that whole paradigm has shifted, where data is driving how we do business, and there's still a lot of companies that have some catching up to do.
It's very true. It is indeed, but it's exciting too, right?
It is.
A lot of opportunity for growth. So, so tell me, what's been your biggest lesson so far in your career?
Ooh, you know, when I think about all of the because being in data governance is really about culture change
Hmm.
and managing through change. For a lot of companies, these are new practices and things like this. So I always go back to advice that my grandfather gave me when I was a teenager. And he said, always listen to what a man is not saying. Right. In data governance, that is especially true because as you're working with all of these different stakeholders, they're dealing with other issues that you may not be aware of. So when you're facing resistance, even though it seems like it's a common sense thing that you're trying to put in, right? Hey, you want high quality data, right? That makes sense. Why wouldn't you want to do the work to do that? Well, there may be other reasons that has happened, and I can give one specific example. Um, I was working with a group in finance, and we were trying to standardize some of the metrics they were using. And this was in a healthcare situation. So it was around per patient revenue, things like that. Well, the finance person I was working with, they were very resistant to giving us a clear definition of what this metric should be, which I couldn't understand because they were already reporting on it.
Right.
So he wouldn't give us clear definition. We had several sessions where we were going through trying to define this thing. So finally, I pulled him to the side and we had a one on one. And what came out of it was he knew that if we changed this metric, that it was going to reset all of the numbers that he had been reporting for years.
Mhm.
And if he did that, that was going to be frowned upon, right? Whether it
Yeah.
was positive or negative, it didn't matter. The numbers were going to be different than what the business was used to seeing.
Yeah.
So, in now understanding that, we worked through how we were going to transition to getting these accurate numbers and preparing the business to receive that. But had we not had that one-on-one conversation, over something as simple as clarifying what a metric should be, we would continue to get that resistance and butt heads and not make progress on the work in that entire domain. So you have to be able to work with people and understand what their motivations are. And at times, data may not be their number one priority, but as a data governance practitioner, you have to keep pushing and driving the organization forward to help them mature.
Love the way that your grandfather put that to listen to what they're not saying.
That has been the best life advice I have received, and it is applied throughout my career.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it makes you just think a little bit differently when it's phrased that way. Yeah, so tell me, so having worked with data for most of your career, what is your definition of data?
So I've been thinking about that question actually because I think it's evolving, and as the pace of the change in our technology is changing the definition of data. If we would have had this conversation 10 years ago, for example, I wouldn't have considered a contract as data, right? We may
Mm,
pull out attributes from that contract and put it in a database somewhere, but the contract itself would not have been data.
mm,
Now it is. I
mhm.
can run an algorithm to pull all the data in this group of contracts and get summaries, pull out attributes, collect statistics about the contracts. So I think as technology continues to evolve, what we consider data is going to continue to evolve as well. It is no longer fields in the database, right, or in a flat file. It can be a Word document on somebody's OneDrive is now data. And I think too, as we have conversations, especially with the way data science and advanced analytics has evolved, I always try and have conversations with those teams to say, who are you and who are you trying to be? Are
Mm,
you a data provider or are you an information provider? Right? And those are two very different things.
mm,
But a lot of times people don't think of it that way. So when I think about data, it's not that we're just trying to manage and put controls and things around discrete data elements anymore. It's how are we analyzing this information and what conclusions are we drawing? How is that driving decision making? So it's a much broader field now, and it's going to continue to broaden as technology gives us more and more capabilities.
mm, mm. I love that definition. So tell me, I mean, do you see the importance of data management and the number of jobs working with data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years, and why?
Uh, it will definitely increase. And the skills that are going to be needed are going to continue to grow, especially as technology changes.
Mm,
So, and I know there's a lot of conversation and a lot of fear in this space around AI and what AI is going to do, and is it going to replace our jobs and things like that. And the short answer, from my opinion, is no, it's not, right? Because at the end of the day, someone still needs to make sure that that AI system is correct. Somebody has to tell it what to do, it's not gonna learn itself, right? So I think what we do and how we do it may change. I may not have to spend 20 hours writing definitions for my data catalog anymore, right? But I also have 50 new data sources that I didn't have before that now I need to get my hands around and understand lineage from all of those new data sources. So where you focus your time and effort may change, but the work is still going to be there. Uh, the more complex we get, the more work we're going to have to do around risk and controls, around data policy and data standards and enforcement of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's going to be a lot of growth in those areas. 5 years ago, I don't recall seeing any jobs for AI governance. Now that's every other job you see on the market right now, right?
Yeah.
They're looking for people to come in and help with transparency and control of AI. So I think we will continue to evolve, but data is not going anywhere.
I couldn't agree more. So then what advice would you give to people looking to get into a career in data management?
I'll go back to my earlier statement. Learn how data works, right? Um, if you can understand how to use data and how to engage with data, those skills are transferable. I don't care if you're doing, training an AI model or writing governance policy. I couldn't write an AI policy if I didn't understand how AI systems engage with data. Right. So I think if you truly spend time understanding data, you can learn the tools. You can learn any tool. Um, Spend some time understanding, as antiquated as it sounds, how data is architected. That has changed now with these cloud services like Databricks and others, even Azure and AWS. How we architect data has changed, but learn those type of building blocks, and that will carry you through no matter what other technologies come out.
What's your favorite way to learn and keep up to date on what's changing?
I believe in getting your hands dirty.
Mm.
I learn by doing,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many resources now that you can just access and play. Where that's one of the positive changes that has happened with a lot of this cloud infrastructure is they want people to use their tools, so they give you spaces to come in and learn and play. I don't have to spend $5,000 to get access to a database now, right? So
Yeah.
that's a positive change that has happened in the industry. You can go on to Databricks Academy and create a test account or basic user account and start learning. So I say dive in and just learn, play around with tools, see what's capable, see what's possible. Uh, do not underestimate YouTube. There's
Mm.
a lot of things on YouTube and a lot of people putting content out to help you learn.
Yeah.
So use those resources. I use it all the time. If it's something I don't understand or a new tool that's coming out or some new technique, that's normally where I start and see what I can find and then research from there.
Very, very nice. Oh, I love it. Well, Shannon, you mentioned in the pre-show when we were talking before we started the podcast, that you have a podcast, your own podcast.
I do.
Well, tell me about it.
So our podcast is called Hey Unc. It's
Uh-huh.
conversations with your favorite uncles.
Oh,
So it's me and my two best friends, and every episode we have a guest uncle that comes in, and we talk about a little bit of everything: life advice, our journey, our careers, money, marriage, relationships, and everything in between. Uh, we seem to have adopted so many nephews over the years from our kids' friends. And we said, you know what, let's start talking about it and share what we learned and what we experienced. And similar to what you said earlier, let people know you're not the first person to go through these things and you're not alone.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun journey so far. We just finished our first season, and we'll start recording for season 2 in January.
Congratulations. I love that so much.
Yeah, it has been fun and just reminiscing because we've all known each other for 35, 40 years. So,
Yeah.
yeah, telling a bunch of
Oh,
those old stories too has been interesting.
for sure. Oh, well, I hope people will go check that out. I love that. And thanks for sharing with the community. That's great.
Absolutely.
So where can people find your podcast on any?
It's on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. So yeah, they can find it on any platform where they get their podcast.
Oh, very, very nice. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask if people wanted to learn more about Ahold Delhaize and what they do, where would they go?
ADUSA.com.
Mhm.
And of course LinkedIn as well. But there's a lot of opportunity in our organization, and as we continue to grow and mature in data, I'm sure there's going to be more and more opportunity there as well. So check us out, and it has been a fun journey so far, and we still have a long way to go. So
Well, I'm so glad you're having fun doing it. Oh, well, Shannon, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today.
absolutely, my pleasure. And I appreciate Dataversity, and I have used you all throughout the years and been to
Uh,
multiple conferences. So it's been fun.
oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The next time you're at the conference, you'll have to stop by and say hi.
I
So,
will.
well, again, thank you for taking the time today. And to all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to keep up to date in the latest in data management education and in the latest in podcasts, you may go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, everyone. Thank you for listening to Dataversity Talks, a podcast brought to you by Dataversity. Subscribe to our newsletter for podcast updates and information about our free educational webinars at dataversity.net/subscribe.